The following is a presentation of Muddy River Sports.
Welcome to another episode of Schuck on a Truck, the Zoom edition. Yes, it's a little chilly outside because as we're recording this, the temperature has gone from 70 down to 30. So it wouldn't be that comfortable on the bed of the truck. My guest is in Arizona, so that would have made it a little impossible. And I've been on the DL for 4 weeks, so I can't get back on the truck just yet. Hopefully soon, so we'll bring you more episodes of Schuck on a Truck from the tailgate of the truck soon. But we're doing the Zoom episode right now, brought to you by Schuck Toyota. If you need a truck, you need a car, go check them out. They'll take care of you. And we appreciate their sponsorship of this. And like I said, we'll get back on the truck soon. But right now, let's talk baseball. How about that, Andy Martinez?
Let's do it. I'm all for it. Yeah, and the weather here is not a problem. 70 is like the standard here.
Yeah, well, you suck, but that's okay. It was actually 70 here today, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing how it was like 70 back home, and it's also like 30 the next day, and just like not getting better. So I'm kind of glad I'm here and not back home.
Well, Andy Martinez is a Quincy University graduate who worked for me at the Herald-Whig back in the day, and now works for the Marquee Network, bringing you Chicago Cubs baseball. So you are in Arizona for spring training, and I'm sure there was a game today, right?
Yeah, there was. The Cubs played. They played the Reds. Sorry. So like right now, it's so funny. This time of spring training, so funny because like, yes, the games matter to the players to get ready and everything, but like right now, the big news was Cody Bellinger and him
Right.
re-signing with the Cubs, and like the games are so ancillary right now that I had to like do it. I'm like, I think they played the Reds, and I'm trying to like remember what uniforms I saw on the field when I was in between writing and watching the game. But yeah, they played the Reds today, and it's fun being down here. It's like if you ever have the opportunity to go down to Arizona or Florida, like wherever your team is, to watch spring training, like 10 out of 10 recommend it. You can you'll never get closer to the players and be able to interact with them as close as you can. Like when you're in spring training, like it's just so much fun if you're a baseball fan.
And the cool thing for you being in Arizona with the Cubs is you have a Quincy University product right there in camp with the Cubs. Left-handed pitcher Riley Martin, who could maybe make the climb this year.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting today specifically. I really think like Riley Martin's chances of making a major league debut have increased. One of the areas of weaknesses for the Cubs this season, and really going back to last season, was lefty relief options. Last year, they went a lot of the time with their bullpen only having Mark Leiter Jr., a righty who has reverse splits, can get lefties out really well. They never really had a lefty option out of the pen. That their 2020 second round pick, or he was a 2020 draft pick, Luke Little, who rose up through the system and he made the major leagues, and it seems like he could be a viable option. But really, like, they didn't carry a lefty until Drew Smiley converted into the bullpen role. And this offseason, they added Bailey Horn to the 40-man roster, and it kind of seemed like he was the next guy in line. But to make room for Cody Bellinger on the roster, they traded him back to the White Sox where they got him originally. So Riley Martin, who was he spent some time in AAA, spent a lot of time in AA as well last year. Like, he kind of comes up on that next cusp of guys who could contribute. They have a lot of NRI guys that are left-handers that can theoretically go to AAA and pitch. But sometimes a lot of these times, these NRI guys have opt-out deals or opt-out dates where they can opt out and potentially go to another major league franchise if they have an opportunity to go to the major league. So he's in like a really sweet spot where if he continues to like kind of do his thing, which he strikes out a lot of guys at a high clip, he can progress up through the system. His issue right now is the walk rate. Like, he walks kind of. Yeah. He was walking a lot at a high rate in 2023. I kind of took it a little bit with a grain of salt. So for those that aren't aware, AAA, they implemented the ABS, the automatic ball strike system, and it was wonky. Like, talking to a lot of players who were funneling up and down between AAA and the major leagues, like, the zone was kind of weird. Like, the top of the zone was like non-existent, right? So if you threw in the top of the zone, which in the major leagues is probably a strike, 8-9 times out of 10, in AAA it wasn't really a strike. So the zone is a little wonky, and you're trying to like. It's interesting that MLB did that, just because if you're going to implement something like that, I don't know if you would want to do it at the AAA level where so many of these guys it's like so important that they get to the major leagues and continue their development. Like, I don't know if you want them like messes with their psyche too, right? Like if you're
because
thinking like, I know what I'm doing right.
it did mess with Riley last year.
Right.
He struggled with control because of that at the AAA level. And then when he went back down to AA, it was fine.
Right. And to me, it's like, again, I try to look at this with a grain of salt, because like, if you look at some, like in his case, right, he goes back to AA, and it's like, did he totally totally change who he was as a pitcher? Probably not. It's just like that strike zone is so wonky, and it's kind of skews everything, right? Like a hitter who has all of a sudden a really high on base percentage, who might not have had it the year before or in his career at all. Like, does that automatically mean he's a great on base guy? Like, probably not. It's just this strike zone that really messed up a lot of things in development. I'm curious if like there's been a change, or if there's going to be a change this season in terms of what the zone is, that maybe like the top of the zone exists a little bit better. But right now, I don't know. But as a roundabout question, like, or as a roundabout answer, like, I think this Riley Martin has a chance to, like, if he can kind of stay consistent and kind of be who he was at AA, and especially in 2022, like it puts him in a real chance to be able to put himself in the major league picture.
Have you had the opportunity to see him this spring already?
I saw him from afar, so it's really interesting. So with new manager Craig Counsell, the structure of workouts is kind of different. So last year and the years prior with David Ross, it was like the minor leaguers worked out at the same time as the major leaguers. So if you wanted to go check out the minor league on the backfields, and like if there's 40 some odd days in spring training, like you can afford to skip a day of major league workouts to go to the backfields to check out, and you probably should if you're doing the job correctly. So more than once, I went down to the backfields last year and was able to actually watch him and some other guys and chat with Riley. But this year with Craig Counsell, it's major leaguers and then the minor leaguers have been working out after. It's been a little bit wonky too, because Sloan Park, where the Cubs host or have spring training, they had a college tournament. So part of the reason that schedule was a little wonky was they just didn't have enough space to be able to work out. That the major leaguers are taking up a lot of the space. So I'm hopeful, like in the next couple of weeks, like once you really hit the monotony of spring training, I can sneak back to the backfields and actually watch him. But I did see him work out. I think it might have been like within the last like 3 days, he was working out on the agility field and playing some long toss. And then he appeared in a major league game. Maybe like Saturday,
It was
so
Saturday.
3 or 4 days ago. Yeah, and he had a clean inning. Sorry, it wasn't a perfect inning. There was a fly ball that was ruled a double, but probably an error. But I'm not a scorekeeper, so I'll leave that to them.
Well, you texted me afterward and said, "I think it should have been an error."
Yeah, no, the way I look at it is like, does a major league outfielder make that catch? Probably.
Yeah.
At the point that he's playing, there's a lot of minor leaguers that I know that it's like the defense kind of takes a step back. That probably should have. I guess if I'm being like a pure neutral observer, like, yeah, it's probably a double, but it's also a really harsh double on Riley's part.
But he still had a good outing, in a major league spring training game, which sets the tone for the rest of his spring, which would be great to see. It'd be great to see him get the opportunity to start the year at AAA, not have to work his way up to that, and potentially get to the big leagues. Then he might make me make a trip to Wrigley this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the goal, right? It's to have you back in the just have the three of us in the corner in the clubhouse chatting it up. No, but yeah, he definitely doesn't. And I thought it was so interesting. Craig Counsell recently had a really interesting quote. He's like, sometimes you get fixated as a baseball fan. It's like, what's the opening day roster? Who's the fifth man in the starting rotation on opening day? Who's your starting third baseman? Like all these like little questions. And he broke it down really easy. He's like, you set the roster for one day, and like somebody might get hurt that day, that the next day your roster, you have to call someone up and it's a completely different roster. And he mentioned there's guys that are in camp right now that are going to be a huge part of the team this year. There's guys who won't ever appear in a spring training game and this season, or might appear in 1 or 2 spring training games and are going to be a huge part of the season this year where they're getting big outs. And to me, an example is Daniel Palencia, another reliever for the Cubs, who in 2023, he didn't appear in a spring training game. He was a starter. He was in AA. Like he was just a guy that threw really, really hard through triple digits. And it's like, well, like, what is he? He was getting saves and getting high leverage opportunities for the Cubs at the end of 2023. Like, just because you don't see a guy at the major league camp or appearing in spring training games, like, doesn't mean that come July or August, if they're pitching really well or if they're hitting really well, they can't be contributing to the major league roster.
This is Schuck on a Truck, the Zoom edition, brought to you by Schuck Toyota. If you have a truck need or any sort of vehicle need, head out to Schuck Toyota. They'll hook you up. Just tell Aaron Peters, Matt Schuckman sent you. We are chatting with Andy Martinez, Quincy University graduate, now working for the Marquee Network, covering the Chicago Cubs. So, Andy, what is your role within the Marquee Network? What is your day-to-day tasks?
So my official title is digital reporter, and it's kind of like, I don't know, we joke, it's kind of like not fair to what I do, right? Because like I help host a podcast.
Okay.
I write for the website. I help do video hits for our app. Like it's kind of like a little bit of everything. So it's like digital reporter is almost like kind of shortchanging me. But like on the day to day, it's right now in season, being at spring training, I'm here 5 out of the 6 weeks. I'm at every home game. I'm on a few road trips. Like I'm just constantly at the ballpark and writing stories for our website, weekly podcasts, doing video hits like I mentioned for the app. So it's really the day-to-day grind of the major league season and covering the Cubs to the best of my ability on our digital platforms.
Grew up in Chicago. So what's it mean to you to be able to cover, to be able to go home and have a role covering one of your hometown teams?
It's so like I remember as a kid, we were a Sun-Times family, like in Chicago. There's a Tribune Sun-Times, and we were a Sun-Times family. And I remember like as a kid, I would always get the sport, or I would turn to the back of the Sun-Times and go to the sports section. And I remember always reading the baseball page and like reading the standings and seeing like, all right, how many games back is this guy? Well, how many home runs is Barry Bonds at? What's so and so's batting average? How many saves does Mariano Rivera have? Like I remember looking at all these and I'm like, well, like this has got to be the coolest job ever, right? To be able to just watch sports and like write about sports and be every sporting game. And so, I mean, if you would have told me, like, even when I first met you, Chuck, that like I would be doing this, I was like, yeah, you're probably a little crazy. Like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Like, I'm like, I would hope so, but I was definitely like very, very skeptical. But to me, it's like so surreal. Like, I was stopped once last year at Wrigley Field, and this guy's like, hey Andy, like I really, really like the work you do. You do a great job covering the Cubs, and it's like that's really, really sick. Because like to me, it would be no different than if 6-year-old me or 7-year-old me had been at Wrigley and had seen whether it was like a Paul Sullivan or someone that I grew up reading and telling them, hey, like like Jay Mariotti, like all these guys, like saying like, hey, like I enjoy what you do.
So have you had to put your White Sox loyalty to the side?
Oh yeah, but I definitely put that, like, I mean, I would say like, I mean, I think you remember this. Like I interned at the Daily Herald and got to, like, that was the first time I got to go into a major league clubhouse. And like, I think thinking back on it, I was like I was in way over my head. Like I don't know how I did it. I don't like, it's kind of like a blackout moment almost. And like, at that point, I'm like, wow, like this is really cool. And I think I can do this. And like, I definitely followed the White Sox a little bit after that, but I don't think I was like necessarily a fan. And at that point, it was just like, well, like, I'm just going to like watch baseball for the fun of it. And, I had a lot of fun watching like the Astros teams that were built up originally with like Altuve and I'm blanking on Springer, like all these guys that came up with through the Astro system, seeing how they did it. It was really, really fun seeing how the Cubs did in 2016, right? There's similar path. And to me, like the beauty of baseball is that like at the end of the day, you can think like the Dodgers right now, right? To me, if you told me like who's going to win the World Series, I'd say like the Dodgers probably, but I don't feel in baseball anything could happen. Last season, I remember watching the Diamondbacks when they came and played the Cubs at the beginning of September. I'm like, this team's like got 2 pitchers and that's it. Like this is not a good team. They've got 2 pitchers. They got Gallen and they got Merrill Kelly. Like this is it. Like they're not that good of a team. And I remember watching Brandon Pfaadt, who's another D2 guy who went to Bellarmine. And I remember I'm like, this guy's like not good. Like why are they throwing this guy out there? Like this is like, what are they doing? And then in the World Series, I'm like, where did this team come? Like this was not the team I watched a month ago. And that to me is the beauty of it, is that anyone can get hot, anyone can get cold. Like it's just, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Did your experience in Quincy, going to Quincy University, prepare you for this?
100%. Like, and I mean, especially writing, like learning from you. Like I still read your stuff to this day. Like it's kind of like, I don't like, it's weird, but like I still follow QHS basketball slowly because I follow you. Like you know, like Bradley Longcore is like a pretty darn good basketball player, and they've got a pretty darn good team that like they might have a chance at going to I guess I don't know where state is, but they have a chance of going to
It's in
state.
Champaign.
Yeah, so they have a chance of going to Champaign. Like I definitely follow it, and I feel like I follow it because of learning from you, and like I thought it prepared me so well. Like I remember going to Quincy University and thinking like I want to be on TV, and I remember the first time I did for QU TV, I did a TV hit. I remember I was like, I've got my script out, I've got my highlights ready, like I'm ready. And then that red dot turned on, and I'm like, what is my name? Like I don't know my name. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to do TV. Like I just want to write. But the one thing that was like really, really ingrained in me when I was there, and even for sure, like watching you and what you did, it was like you can't just be a writer. Like you can't just be one. You have to be able to do a little bit of everything. And
Yep.
I mean, as we see right now, we're doing a video podcast that like
Right. Yeah.
like who would have thought like 10 years ago that that's what we'd be doing?
25 years ago when I moved back to Quincy, I thought I would only be a writer.
Yeah, exactly.
And the opportunities that presented themselves since then, like, you know, when I had opportunities from other markets, it was to be a writer. And now here I am, I'm taking photos, I'm doing podcasts, I'm running a website, you know, it's the business has changed and you have to adapt and change with it. And I think that's what's cool, what you've done and what you guys continue to do with the Marquee Network is you're not just putting the Cubs on TV and saying, okay, here you go, here's a game on TV, we'll do some post-game interviews, blah, blah, blah. You're giving the broad spectrum of everything. And Cubs fans eat it up, which is great.
Yeah, and we talk about it, Tony Andracki, my manager, like we talk about it. It's like we don't want to be like, all right, you turn on the TV, you watch the game, and that's it. Like we want to get to the point where it's like, all right, I want to watch a pregame show, I want to watch a game, I want to watch a postgame, and then I want to go to the website to read about what happened, get some in-depth analysis. I want to go to the app to get some more breakdowns. Like we want to be the place where it's like, if you think like Cubs, if you think, what do I want to like? I want to get the most out of the Cubs. Like the first place you're going to go to is Marquee, and that's the way we think of it. It's like, how can we create the best content to serve the Cubs fans? Because like at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, right? We're not doing it because we're not doing it for us. We're not like at the end of the day, we're being almost like a liaison between the team and the fan, right? Well, the fan wants to know, why haven't the Cubs signed Cody Bellinger? We'll explain it to you. We'll tell the story.
Yep.
Why is this guy playing and not this guy playing? We'll be the like we're an intermediary for sure between the fans and the team, and we want to be that resource where it's like, all right, well, why isn't this guy playing? Well, let me go check Marquee. Who's this new guy that they just called up? Let me go to Marquee. Who's this Riley Martin guy that's throwing in the seventh inning of a major league game? I'll go to Marquee, and I know. Like that's what we strive to do every day.
Even though I'm not a diehard Cubs fan, which you well know.
Yeah, I know.
I still check out the Marquee Network because I know my guy's going to bring it. So you're doing a heck of a job there, and keep it up.
I appreciate it.
And don't get sunburnt while in Arizona.
Oh, that happened on day one. It's no matter how much sunscreen I put on, like I'll have to show you the watch stand. Like the watch stand is like it's pretty bad. And I've been here for 2 weeks. It's the sun out here is no joke. If you come to Arizona over Florida, like if you think you have enough sunscreen, bring more.
The only time I've been to Arizona was to cover a bowl game. So I was there in December and I didn't have to worry about
Which was still probably pretty hot.
It was, but I didn't have to worry about getting sunburned. So, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I know you got lots to do. So I appreciate taking a few minutes to do this. Enjoy Arizona, and we'll make sure we check out the Marquee Network. Everybody go to the Marquee Network online. Check out this guy, Andy Martinez, former Quincy University student. He's a QU alum, bringing you all the Cubs info you want. And hopefully we're talking about Riley Martin with the Cubs eventually.
Yeah, appreciate it, Schuck. And Riley and I joked about like one day, like it'll be like me covering the game and him pitching, and it's like the QU like super dream, I guess.
That would be awesome. All right, man. Well, good luck with everything. For Andy Martinez, I'm Matt Schuckman. This has been another episode of Schuck on a Truck, the Zoom edition, brought to you by Schottenkirk Toyota.
Muddy River Sports. Our home, our sports.